Okay, so again, we're going to find out what is f of negative 1. Since this thing's centered at x equals negative 1, all these terms are going to go away when I plug in negative 1. So t of negative 1 is the same as f of negative 1, which is equal to negative 4. F prime of negative 1, that's going to come from this term right here. It should just be 6. But let's test it, right? Because the coefficient right here is what's going to give us the first derivative. So t prime of x is just going to be 6 minus 4 x plus 1, oops, not squared, that's just to the first, plus 12x plus 1 squared. I plug in negative 1. This term goes away, that term goes away, I get 6. The second derivative for f is going to come from this term right here. It's just going to be this coefficient times the factorial of that exponent. So the second derivative is the 6 goes away. I'm just left with negative 4 plus 24x plus 1. T prime prime of negative 1 is equal to negative 4. So that was all letter A. So therefore we have f of negative 1 is negative 4. F prime of negative 1 is 6. And f prime of negative 1 is negative 4. Is there a critical value at critical point at negative 1? No, because the first derivative is not equal to 0. X equals 1 is not a critical value since f prime of negative 1 equals 6, which is not equal to 0. Is there a max or min? Neither. Why? Again, because the first derivative is not equal to 0. So x equals 1 is not a maximum or minimum since f prime of negative 1 equals 6, which is not equal to 0.